What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today I am sitting down with, is it Krown? Do I just call you Krown, or what do we go by?
Call me Crown, you can call me Eric, you can call me whatever the you want, man.
Okay, Eric, Krown Crypto with Krown Crypto. So yes, I guess long story short, I mean, you do massive TA, I do really no TA. I mean, we might look at a triangle, kind of look at resistance,
Good old
support,
triangles, my friend.
maybe the occasional volume's low, it could pop off. But you've been doing this for quite some time. So before we get into like crypto predictions and what you think, do you want to give us a little bit of
Mhm.
a background on like who you are and what you did before this, how you got into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, who I am, what do I do? Well, my name's Eric Crown. I started trading, professionally, I guess, I guess at the start of this decade. Although I've been learning, ever since I was a kid. My father was a trader on the Pacific Stock Exchange, so I used to go down to the floor with him, ever since I was 11, being a clerk during that. And then I went to college and spent a nice 5, almost 6 years there doing basically nothing, wasting time essentially. And once I figured out that I didn't really want to do that, came out of college and harassed one of my family friends to essentially teach me the art of trading. And so I went down to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange ARCA and learned from one of the a couple of the best guys down there, which was just an incredibly lucky experience on my own behalf, which I feel so yeah, again just every time that I think back to it, I just feel extremely lucky thinking about that. Anyways, one of the guys who had been doing it for about 40 years, he really took me under his wing. He mentored me, and I was able to become an actual market maker, authorized trader with a Series 56, all that good stuff on ARCA itself. Later moved on to on top of the floor of
And
Chicago
market
Board.
making is like a legal thing. You can do that.
Yeah, market making is, yeah, 100%, man. You need market
Hmm.
makers to provide liquidity to the market. It's it's one of those things because people, they're kind of like a scapegoat a lot of the time. You hear people say, the dirty market makers are making the market do that. It's actually completely untrue. Market makers don't care about direction. That's a ramble maybe for a later time, perhaps. But just something that I noticed a lot. Anyways, I did that for quite some time. It was really fun, learned a lot, man, and was around some of the best traders in the world, which just was an invaluable experience, especially, myself being pretty damn young at the time. And most of the guys there have been doing it, for decades upon decades. So that was just, again, just something that I will always hold dearly to myself. And after years of doing that, I started to hear about Bitcoin as people did, a few years ago, and it slowly but surely sucks you in, right? It slowly but
Oh,
surely sucks you in.
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%, man. So, I didn't go all in at first, but I'd say about a year and a half, 2 years ago, perhaps, I started to really make the transition, and then a little bit more than a year ago, I made a full transition into trading Bitcoin. I just love the freedom of it. Bitcoin in general, I like the idea. It's something that I can actually really get behind. It's something that I actually do believe in.
Well,
Although,
can I cut you off for a second? I mean,
yeah,
from
go ahead.
traditional markets, are you saying like do you actually believe in Bitcoin as a viable alternative, or for you is it still just like dollar, 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 but like I'm gonna trade this Bitcoin to get more dollar? You know what I mean? Like, what is the?
Right. So in practicality, right, I live my life in actually euros right now. So fiat currency is the most,
Mhm.
readily available to me. It's the most useful. However, I do believe that Bitcoin probably has a place in the world in the years to come. You see all this infrastructure being built up by legitimate, really legitimate players in the space. Whether you hear about Fidelity or you hear about Backed, which is essentially backed by New York Stock Exchange. Um, which I used to trade on a subsidiary of there, and you hear about all these sorts of things that are being built up right now, which does really solidify that the structures in the infrastructure is going to be there, and it is going to be a thing long term. So I do believe in it, but right now, do I use Bitcoin to live my life? No, I don't. If
Mhm.
if that's where that was going.
Well, I mean, like, do you are you mostly in fiat? Like, would you say, or I mean, because for me personally, I'm probably
Oh,
way overextended in Bitcoin. Like, I have like my bank account's a joke right now. Like, I'm in it, man. So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So I do hold some. It's funny, I am a trader, and I did take out most of my money at around 16,500 ish area, just based off some of my own analysis, and then I left about 25% of my account in there just to trade off of, and all the money that I've been making from that, I just keep in and just basically save that, because Bitcoin is a little bit special in a sense that you never truly know what it's going to do. It has a fun way of
Yeah,
operating,
how
which
is it different? Like, just for example, like from traditional, obviously it's faster pace, but I mean, like, do you find that Bitcoin's movements kind of catch you off guard in ways that maybe traditional ways wouldn't have prepared you for, or
It's a lot of sleepless nights, man. I'll put it that way. The beautiful thing about traditional markets is there's an open, there's a close. Anything after that, that's you can't do anything. So might as well not worry about it. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, not so much. The things that I notice most differently about it is the percentage moves are just insane, astronomical. When I first really made the switch over, it took a while to get adjusted to, okay, you can hold on to things for a little bit and they will like a 5% gain that can happen in literally an hour sometimes. I mean, we've seen just crazy things happen in a very, very short amount of time. So to me, adjusting to that was probably the biggest thing. Also, just a 24/7 market is quite intense. Although you will notice that most of the action happens during, when traditional markets are open for the U.S. and you very rarely see action happen on Saturday. As pretty much everyone's on an off day for that. You have Asia's, because they basically wake up a little bit earlier on Sunday, so Sunday things kind of pick up again.
mm-hmm.
But basically that's what I do notice
What's actually
overall.
weird, man, is just because I always make my videos around the same time each day, I find that Bitcoin makes crazy movements between it has recently, don't know why, between like 10:30 a.m. and like 2 p.m. my time. I don't know why, because like I'll go to put my video out and Bitcoin will like drop $200 and I'm like, oh crap, I should probably re-record this intro because it's a totally different market than it was 5 minutes ago. So, but I wanted to ask you a question, man, because like I'm not like crazy TA. We don't do crazy trading, and the reality is there's a lot of people that look towards this space. They have that idea of mass adoption, bringing on the next 100 million users, whatever. And the truth is most people are not traders. They're not interested in trading, or they're very bad at trading. And then forget about it. You're going to introduce something like BitMEX and start offering 100x leverage. You're going way over people's head right now. So, I mean, what do you say? I mean, like, granted, we've been in a bear market, and this is great. You saw that guy. I can't remember his name. I think it was Mark Dow. He shorted it all the way from the top down to the bottom. Right. Great for him, right? But what do you say for the average person that has to get up? They got to go to their job. They're interested in cryptocurrencies, but I don't have time to day trade. So, I mean, should they just be sitting it out right now? I mean, because clearly any real TA that we've seen all year really hasn't mattered because we're just going down. I mean, it's just been a downward momentum.
And that's what I say a lot, man, is all you had to do is switch to a weekly chart and say, hey, we had our first lower high in January of quite literally a year ago at 16,500. I think this thing's done going parabolically up. Now, when it comes to actually trading for the layperson who, like you said, has another job, they have basically a life, which I do not. I look at pixels on my computer screen all day long. No, there's an opportunity cost to being a trader, right? And if you don't have the time to do it, then yeah, you're going to be competing against people who do have the time to do it and to spend their whole life doing it. So there is certainly a disconnect there. So what is the best thing for that person to do? Well, if they really want to scratch the itch, they can have, I'd imagine a small account's not going to do too much of a damage. But really, not having a position is a position. Cash is a position. One of the best positions of this past year was quite literally cash. If you
just don't do anything. Yeah.
And that is a decision in and of itself. So people always feel this emotion of fear and greed, and markets are driven by emotions. That's why going back to our conversation earlier, do I see similarities between these markets? Absolutely, because at the end of the day, trading psychology is essentially unchanged. We are dealing with humans. We are dealing with imperfect humans who have these crazy emotions, myself included, likely yourself, assuming you're not some sort of enlightened monk.
What about all the bots and stuff too, though? Because I mean, those got to throw a wrench in the gears. I mean, you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with calculated AI that thinks it's doing what it should be doing, right?
Right. So bots and algos, that's pretty damn common shit. And what it comes down to with them is they are programmed by who?
People.
Well, people.
Yeah.
Right. People put in, these pretty typically common inputs and whatnot, and they are still driven by that sort of common factor. And that is the relating factor between all trading psychologies. We all come from this human, this human psychology, essentially, which has been unchanged ever since we became anatomically modern Homo sapiens, which happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. My point is, we are dealing with conditioning in the mind that is, you're not getting rid of it, man. Again, unless you're sort of enlightened monk, who probably is not going to care about trading cryptocurrency to begin with. Magic internet money is not the first thing on their minds. So we all deal with that, and that is the common factor between all this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, man. But by the way, dude, I wanted to dive into just asking you what you think moving forward, because that's the big thing lately. I noticed in like the bull market, it wasn't like so much about, like, I noticed TA seems to be really a lot more popular in the bear market. It seems like in the bull market, it was more of just like, what
You
coin
don't
can I
even
hop on for like just
Yeah.
today to get a pump and then
Yeah.
exit? But now it's kind of just like everyone's asking, when is this going to turn around? How low are we going?
Mhm.
I mean, do you have any kind of target markets just from looking at it? I'm not doing, and nothing technical. I just know I got in. I bought my first Bitcoin around 2000. I think it was 2200, 2300. And going back to the beginning of 2017, you sort of did have this 2500 level where we kept touching it, we kept touching it, we kept
Yeah.
touching it. So that's kind of like my psychological level. But do you have something maybe that like the charts are showing differently, or do you have a different low that you're looking at, or what are you seeing moving forward?
Alrighty. Do you want me to bring up the charts right now? You can do that.
Yeah, we could do a screen share.
Alrighty, let's see. Let's pull this up right over here. Okay, cool. Close this message. All right, oops, that's my account right there. That's my streamer account that I usually play around with on my channel, but this is the charts right over here. Let's actually do a little bit of technical analysis. Okay, so where do I think that this guy is going? Well, we're gonna have to do a little bit of a history on this, but overall, we're going to go over here to our Bitstamp chart. This is pretty much the longest running exchange that has history. We can
Yeah,
also go to
I
the
like to use Bitstamp as well. I can never figure out what's up with Bitfinex's premium price thing. Why is it always like?
that can be annoying, man. That can certainly be annoying. It does kind of throw a spanner in the works now, doesn't it? So overall, this right here to me is very extremely unlikely to be the low. And we can build out that case right now. However, if you're asking where this is going, it sounds like you're coming from the frame of already thinking that it goes lower. So we can just start there then. So assuming that this is not the ultimate low, and I am comfortable with assuming that this is not the ultimate low, as long as we are essentially below this purple moving average right over here. This is a very common 200 exponential moving average. It has been governing on our lower highs ever since we kind of broke down from 6,000 right over here. And as long as we're essentially being beholden by this from a more traditional stance, you are in the heavy grips of a very bearish market. So again, as long as we're closing weeklies below there, I don't really have any true reason to be considering this the ultimate low, amongst many other reasons. The time spent at this low is much too long for it to be considered a real low. The percentage reaction off it, not good either. And also just some external factors like the MBTs are not signaling the same thing either. So going off that assumption that this is not going to be the low, where could we potentially find a low? Well, we can do a bunch of different things. First things first, let's actually put on the 200 simple moving average. Again, another very common input, which is actually holding us up right now. You can see that we came right down to it on this first stab down to about 3,200. Now it's currently aligning at around 3,300 right over here. And Bitcoin is currently, bouncing off it. However, if and when that does actually break, that is when I become bearish looking for those new lows. Where are those lows likely to come to? Well, just looking at our chart right over here in the most basic of ways, we can see very easily that, the next sort of ledge of support would be down around this mid 2000 area, which is actually where I do start to look. Now, when we're talking about major market bottoms, right? When we're talking about major market bottoms, we have to keep something in mind. There is there is a there is a massive misconception with how these things are put in. People think that it's just like some sort of a magic number. Everyone thinks that they have like the magic serum, right? The good stuff, whatever it is. Understand that major market lows are put in by essentially someone with extremely deep pockets, whether that's an institution, whether that's some reptilian government, whether that's some sort of George Soros, whatever it is. Just have for anyone who's new, like I don't actually believe that.
Reptilian government. Nah, you never know, man. You never know.
I've been watching a lot of David Icke lately, man. Anyways, so to understand, and the reason why this is important, because we need to understand why it's ambiguous, and essentially someone with extremely deep pockets, again, going back to that conversation, and I mean like 500 million, a billion, billion plus, all that kind of money. they put in the actual market floor. How do they do it? Well, their whole perspective is to buy as much as possible because they are playing a longer term game. This is, likely an institutional player with, again, extremely deep pockets. So how do they buy the most for the least price? Well, they have to basically buy in an area that people are not aware of, or are not really necessarily looking towards. So when everyone's talking about something like, I think like the super bears are all talking about 1000 down around here, which is certainly possible. That does, tick something off in my mind that says, hey, it's likely either going to be front ran a little bit, perhaps right around here, or perhaps we actually do wick below it. That would be extremely brutal to actually wick below $1,000. I think that that's a little bit less likely.
Well, the thing
But
is if you have everybody's eyes all looking at the same level,
right.
wouldn't you assume that maybe people would put their orders in a little higher because they don't want to get stuck?
Right.
Right.
And that's what all the big market mover is going to be thinking, because they have to, they want to get filled on, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars worth of coin, right? So, understand if I know you said you don't trade, but if you can conceptualize
I mean, I
putting
swing
it in.
trade. I'll hold
Okay.
and yeah, but I don't short, so it's pretty much
Right.
always a natural long because I'm holding it. So
Gotcha. Okay, so to put this into perspective, imagine yourself, and for the listener, imagine yourself putting in, in order for 100 million contracts on BitMEX, $100 million worth of Bitcoin. The market can't handle that. It would move the market significantly. You would immediately cause a pump or dump of $50 to $100, and then that's going to be followed up by even more people. You're just going to run a ton of stops, and that just adds fuel to the fire. So when the institution wants to actually buy something up during this, during that phase, they need to make sure that they do it very, very carefully. And that's, again, going back to your point that when everyone's looking at the same level, well, what are they going to be thinking? Well, I need to front run it, essentially. So when you have a lot of people talking about this area down around here, in my opinion, it's actually a little bit more likely that it gets front ran right around here. Anyways, the whole reason why I'm even talking about this, while I'm even mentioning it, is because I will never say, as a trader, you can't say that something's definitely going to happen. Like it's definitely going down to 1000, or it's definitely going to 2300 right over here. I can just mark out areas of potential reversal that would look about right, and then build a case around it. So we can do that right now. If and when Bitcoin does break this 200 simple moving average right over here, which is right around 3200, 3250, 3300ish area, which I do think is extremely likely, to be fair. Like I said, this is extremely unlikely to be a low right over here to me. Then this is the next area that I look towards down around here. You'll notice that this area is also marked off by the 886 Fibonacci retracement down around here, which is actually, right around there. If I just adjust the blue box territory, which is actually exactly where Bitcoin did bottom out in 2014, down around here, nice little spike low. So we do know that Bitcoin likes to play off those. We do know that, the bots and algos do like to play off those. It's one of those things that shows up in Bitcoin quite often. Now, not only that, but we do have some nice volume profile coming around this area. If you're not familiar with the volume profile, basically higher volume profile means good. It means more support. It means essentially a lot of business is being done there. Now, you will notice that if Bitcoin loses this current area that we're at right over here, there's extremely low market acceptance all the way down basically to this mid 2000s area, very similar to what you saw at 6000 right over here. This held 6000, this massive node right over here. Once you lost that, it was a very quick flush down.
oh my god, yeah, we thought that was the bottom. We were convinced. I
Right.
remember that was crazy.
Oh yeah, man. A lot of people were, but looking at this sort of stuff, I think it does offer some perspective.
Well, let me
Anyways,
ask you a question about that real quick, and dude, I do want
yeah.
to keep on that same topic. Don't forget that what you were saying.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just curious about what you think as far as, is it always definitely, like for example with TA, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, or do you think that, you've heard of black swan events? I don't know what the positive version of a black swan is.
Okay.
Is it a pink swan, a white swan? I don't know. But I mean, like,
Yeah,
do you
Pink
not
Swan
think
sounds a lot nicer.
pink one, there you go. Do you not think that there's situations that could happen, like catalysts in the world that could just throw the chart completely off? Like what I'm saying? Or do you think that?
Oh, I would love to talk about this for a second. Absolutely. And yes, I really want to set to rest a lot of probably apprehensions that people have with technical analysis. So when people hear about technical analysis, they typically think of something like an Elliott wave, harmonics. They think basically predicting. That's the wrong frame to be coming from, in my experience. And that's one of the big things that I learned as a professional trader, being mentored by those guys, is that even with the best technical analysis, you can't be perfect. We're in a game where it is impossible to be perfect 100% of the time. We can get pretty damn good, but you can't be perfect 100% of the time. So when those black swan events come up, or just when price action just does something weird, sometimes you get a bar and it's just, you didn't know that was going to happen. You can't tell that a bar is going to happen or anything like that. So what do we do as a trader to actually be able to use our technical analysis skills, but also be profitable over time, knowing that we can't be perfect and we'll be taking losses? Well, we have to have something that's called risk management. So that kind of cuts through the cheese on all that. And essentially risk management allows us to, okay, we can take a loss over here if we're making a bigger gain over there. That, everyone understands this probably intrinsically, but to put it into trading psychology and to understand that is one of those things that I feel a lot of people struggle with, myself included. When I first started, you kind of have to go through the baptism is what I call it. But yeah, people hate taking losses, so that's usually a difficult concept to tackle. Anyways, I think we'll get back on over here, I suppose. Anyways, so this area right over here is of extreme interest to myself. For those reasons. We also have, if we go over here, the BLX index, we have the 377 exponential on the weekly coming right around that area. That's an incredibly powerful one on a weekly time frame. From traditional markets, we haven't really seen it come into play on Bitcoin land, just because it really hasn't had enough time yet. Remember, Bitcoin is relatively young. This thing only started even ticking because it has to have 377 weeks first before it actually even ticks one tick right over here. So it really hasn't had a chance. But I'd imagine that if Bitcoin does get down around there, it's going to be very interesting to see if that gets play. And I'd imagine that it does. Anyways, going back on over here to this chart. Yes, this is the first area that I really look forward towards. We also do have some things in the lower time frames that do suggest that this is the likely area, if and when, again, 3250 breaks. And you'll hear me say that, if this happens, then that becomes likely, because that's what trading is. We can only come up with, basically ways that we know that our idea is likely to be right or likely to be wrong. More importantly, likely to be wrong. Again, going off that assumption that we can't be perfect. But this to me right over here is just essentially, creating a symmetrical triangle. Sorry, not a symmetrical triangle, descending triangle, which we can make a measure move off of, and that'd be pointing down around here to, well, where is that area that we just looked at? Right around here, around 2400-ish area. So a lot of things aligning in that area. Does that mean that it's 100% a done deal, that that's going to be the ultimate low for Bitcoin forever, or sorry, for this market cycle?
No,
It
forever.
doesn't.
It's never going to move. It's just going to stay there. It wouldn't be bad though. I mean, jokingly, when it was back at 6K and it didn't move, it actually felt kind of cool. Like for the first time ever, I actually almost could envision what it would be like to use Bitcoin as just a regular currency. I got really comfortable with that for a second.
Point actually, that likely that will be the destiny of it at some point, most likely, if it achieves what it sets out to achieve, right? It's going to essentially become flat. But yeah, that area right over there, very, high likelihood of an extremely strong bounce. Does it have a reversal or not? Well, that's only something that we can say as a trader, as an analyst. When it actually happens, we have to see the reaction. You can't say something beforehand, because remember, we need to see this signature of that big market mover. Oh, there's my little alert. Nice.
Good. You gotta go do some trading. We gotta stop the video now, or what? No.
Oh no, man, all good. I actually have I just have my streamer account right over here. I have an account that I only use for streaming, and I have it up right now. So I guess cool. I probably just got taken out.
Okay. All right. Big question. I know everyone watching, this is what they're really curious about. So what is your main target? And I won't hold you to it, okay? But what is your most realistic target?
What I think is most likely on this asset is we probably come down to this area right over here, 1869, because that's a great number. And honestly, there's not too many people talking about this area. It would be great to front run all the geniuses who think that this area is destined to happen no matter what.
Well, that's JP Morgan, so obviously that's clearly where we're going.
Well, yeah, I know you're saying that facetiously, but here's the thing, man. When you have big institutions saying that, that's a big tell, man. That is a very, very big tell. Whoops, another one apparently going off. I'm fine in my position. Nice. But that's a big tell, man, because why would they just give up their position, right? It's like we're gonna buy at 1,000. I hope no one buys in front of us, that kind of a thing. So it's one of two things to me. It's either 1869 down around here, and then we'll likely have a quick move back into this region right over here, or it quite literally dumps below 1,000 and just scares the ever living shit out of everyone, myself included, by putting in some time down around here and then picking it back up. Now we'll go over here to the BLX index. And I have something that I refer to as the matrix. Now, this is, this is a little bit more crystal ball type technical analysis. This is not something that I would want to be beholden to be quite honest with you, but it's fun to do, especially on a video like this. It's really fun to postulate with. Anyways, you can see over here that each and every one of these dotted trend lines represents a support trend line of a parabolic market cycle, each and every one in Bitcoin's history. So you have this first one right over here in 2010, 2011. It gets broken right over here in 2012, and that actually becomes the highs of your 2013 and 2014 market cycle right over here. Then we create another parabolic market cycle with another support trend line right over here, in 2011 and 2013, and that gets broken right over here in 2015. It becomes the parabolic high of the 2017, 2018 market cycle that we just put in right over here. Now we've actually put in another support trend line for this past market cycle right over here and right over here, and that was actually broken right over here on the dump down below 5,000 into the low 4,000s right there. So does that become our defining factor going onwards and forwards? Well, again, this is a little bit more because I've been talking doom right now. I want to talk a bit more on the positive side. Does this become our defining factor going forwards? Well, could be, and we could actually come up with some potential, max prices for a time range. So just to show how quickly this, how quickly or maybe not quickly, depending upon your perspective, this rises. At the end of this year, it could be, I think it comes in around right over here. Yeah, right around 13,500-ish area. That would kind of be your potential high. But if we just go out and 1 year later, right over to the, whoops, let me just get this on over there. Am I still sharing? Okay, good. All right, great. If we go over to the beginning of 2021, that rises all the way to 40,000. If we go all the way to the beginning of 2022 over here, we're almost running out of space. Yeah, right over here, it's literally at around 100,000. So when I say that I'm a believer in Bitcoin, it's for these sorts of reasons. Why? Now, you will also notice that scrolling back on over here, each and every one of these, support trend lines of these parabolic market cycles lose their slope over time. So going back to our conversation of what Bitcoin is going to likely look like when it actually does reach its, if and when it does reach its I suppose its destiny, I suppose. But you're going to see this line completely flatline, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're already starting to see it loosen its slope each and every time.
I see what you're saying. It is kind of slowly curving down. Now, do you take into consideration some of the fundamentals as well, like just things, for example, like the halvening, the deflationary nature of it, the less Bitcoin coming out versus
so
is that factored in?
And you know what, K-Dub? I remember on a video you referred to this, and remind me, when is the halvening for this next one? Like the actual date.
I don't know the actual specific date because it's based on block height, but I know that it's supposed to happen in May of 2020. So
May of 2020.
They say that if you look at past performance, which obviously doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but it usually tends to happen a year, which would be this May, would be 1 year leading up to
right.
2020.
Hold on. So let me just stop you right there. You said 1 year before, so that would be May. Typically, it bottoms out. Did I hear that?
Yeah, I mean, if we were to follow, suit and everything just happened exactly the same, then we would be looking for a bottom around sometime in May. Well, how does that?
Okay, so now I'm actually. You know what? I'm gonna show you something that I think you might be interested in. Okay, so yes, we went through all of the dotted trend lines, and that's cool. Now you see these solid downtrend lines right over here, and I did the same thing in 2018 market cycle as well. Now you can do this for every market cycle in Bitcoin. I just want to focus on these ones because they're easier to see. But this first one right over here, this downtrend line right over here, this is related to this guy right over here. Why? Because it holds in Bitcoin's first consolidation before it breaks out into a bull trap right over here. And we have the same thing right over here. That was your bull trap of 8,000. And then we got, rejected right down quick into 6,000 in the span of like a week and a half. It was a crazy time, man.
Yeah, now,
yeah, and you'll notice that on this trend line, once Bitcoin broke out of it and it did put in that bull trap, it never actually broke it on the way down again. It actually based off it once over here and then based off it twice over here on the ultimate low on the 886 Fibonacci retracement. And again, you do see the same thing over here, just to verify. But basically, if we go over here into 2018 and do the same thing, again, working off this trend line right over here, and you see that we broke out of it, put in the bull trap, and then work our way down. And we've actually bounced off of it once already. That's what actually held this guy up on that last run. Yes, it's also the 200 simple, very common things to kind of bounce off of. But if we were to walk this guy down again into that 1800 level that we just spoke about, well, where we can actually come up with a time as we follow this guy further downwards, right? So if I'm talking about that 2300 to 2600 level, that would suggest a time in about middle of February. Now, if we actually extend that down to the 1800-ish area that we just spoke about, which you said was May, down around here, that would actually be the 1800 level, right? And I do have a speculative dotted line down around here. This one is based on it is based on high demand pivot points and high volatility pivot points as well, but it's not. I can't verify it in the same way that I can verify the other ones. So if I do essentially highlight this area, that would be essentially suggesting that the bottom is somewhere around late April, early May.
That's
You'll all
interesting. That's pretty coincidental. or
right.
it's, wow.
Coincidental. Now, you also mentioned that it probably starts heading back up the other way. Well, we can actually do some for that as well. Now, you'll notice this other descending trend line right over here, and that basically goes from your top to the bull trap, and then you'll notice it comes down over here. And once you break out of it, that actually begins your bull market. You're just going up from after that. Well, if we do the same thing right over here, again, we're making a lot of assumptions here to be very, very clear, to be very damn clear
It's not
to
financial advice. Everything is assumed. Just we're just looking
yes,
at some charts, guys. Making that clear.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if we were to make the assumption that it does bottom out somewhere right around here, around that May date, and then if it were to break out, off this guy, off the, just basically using the same guide as it, wherever that might happen, we can actually come up with that area, breaking out, what is this like? Basically the end of 2019, early 2020, which again, this would still be at a price point of literally low 2000s. So it's not like it's super advanced, but I'd imagine that at that May 2020 date, somewhere over here, you'd probably be, really starting to turn around. And that actually kind of would make sense to me. So it was really interesting that you did mention that before. Anyways, I'm going to go off of a few other things, that I think are quite interesting, as far as what to look for on the bottom, because I think that's probably more important to talk about, regardless of my thoughts of where it could be. Here's the more important thing. Here's how to actually know. So I'm gonna bring up a couple different things. First, let's go over the historical volatility rank. Now, this is ancient technology once again from traditional markets, which no one talks about here, but this is incredibly useful. And honestly, this on its own could, I don't want to say this, but this on its own probably I could probably just use this and find a good enough place. Anyways, if you're not familiar with what volatility is, it oscillates between 0 and 1, and essentially it's essentially about the mean deviations away from the mean price over a period of time, which essentially means, I know that doesn't translate too well. In layman's terms, it means a very, very high volatility matches up with extremely inflective points on the market, and a very low volatility suggests that we are, getting ready to move, most typically speaking. You'll notice that over here, when this thing's flashing that red color, that's a 1. This is a 1. Well, this is your top in 20,000. This was your 6,000 bottom right over here. So anytime it flashes those major, almost near 1 areas, it does line up with an incredibly high inflection point. So if you were to just realize, hey, we've just had a massive downtrend right over here, we're flashing a 1, or near 1, well, this guy's likely, the next move is likely to be up, and that was a 2x off the bottom in the span of about a week and a half to 2 weeks right over there. And you can just back test this over here, calls the bottom right over here, calls this spike low right over here, calls this spike top right over here, calls this spike low right over here, spike top right over there, spike top right over there. And it calls the ultimate low of 2014 as well, just going back on over here. So again, when this guy actually does pop up, that's one of the things that I put an incredible amount of weight on. You'll notice in current stature, Bitcoin has not done anything like that. It got up here to the 0.69 area, which is high, but that's not where Bitcoin puts in major highs and major lows at. Now let's get rid of this guy and do something else. Let's bring out the MVT signal, which is something that I think is incredible.
So then, according to you, in that situation, we're not really seeing any push in really either direction. It's almost kind of lackluster in a way.
Yes, exactly. It's just consolidation is what it comes down to, right? So that's exactly right. It's supposed to be lackluster. It's it just bores people to death before
Oh
the next.
yeah, no, you could definitely tell people are getting bored. I could tell by the
Yeah.
comments.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And this is the MVT signal down around here. I'll bring it up for a second. This thing calls major tops and major bottoms pretty damn well. Now, you can only use it on the daily. I know a lot of people are trying to use this on the weekly right now, and they think that it's a bottom right now. No, that's not true. It's not. You quite literally can't use it. And to relay why this is important to look at, it is completely divorced from all the other price indicators that I typically look at. It's not related to them. It is quite literally just the network value divided by the daily transaction value and then interpolated using forward backward moving average, 90-day moving average. So what does that mean? It means this is an external factor. And as you can see right now, we are, we're not flashing red, we're not flashing green, but we're kind of right in the middle. Well, when this thing actually does bottom, I'm looking for a major spike on that historical volatility rank, and also for this guy to flash green, which typically happens, or it does happen down below this 50 marker on the oscillator right over here. You also notice, and just I guess I'll just talk on this for a second on why the current area that we're looking at is just not a low, is actually in 2014, we had a very similar price action in this area, right? We had a very similar price action. You had a descending triangle right over here, it broke down, sounds really familiar from that 6,000 area. You broke down and went down about 52.5%, right? Well, let's do the same thing over here in 20. Let's actually just put this on a weekly. We'll do the same thing in 2018. We had a descending triangle right over here, and we break down and do another 51% drawdown right over there. Okay, not bad. Then we pump back up over here using bodies. We get about, a 20, 25, 26% pump in the span of over about 6 weeks. And over about 6 weeks right over here, about 25, 26% pump. Then bringing it over and back around to this, to that MBT signal. Let's just look at the markings on that in that same sort of an area. Again, keeping in mind that this is not related to price volume time. By the way, just notice that this, flashing red right over here during the bull trap, if people want to know why that area was considered a bull trap, same thing with this area right over here, flashing red all the way through during that descending triangle, suggesting that it was likely to break down. But right over here in this area, right, if we just bring up the MVT signal according to this, there we go. Bringing it up right over here. This is the area that is in question. So we essentially, put in this consolidation area oscillation between this around this 90 market right over here. You pop up, come back down, and then put in this slightly higher high. Well, let's actually mark this area off. Let's actually mark this area off and see where we are in the current 2018 market structure. And I'm going to fast forward it right over here and bring this guy up once again. And look at that. Look at that. We're literally right in the same area. Now, again, this is very interesting to me because this is the network value divided by the daily transaction value. This is not related to the price, volume, and time that makes up all indicators, right? So the fact that they are showing a similar signature is quite damning. Not only that, but remember the actual signature of the oscillator. You come down, you pop up, and then you put in that secondary higher high right over here. Now we're back below the moving average on this guy. That doesn't necessarily suggest the most positive things. It does suggest that we have much lower to go. And it doesn't tell us how much lower it goes. But again, when this thing actually does flash a green on the bottom, and as well as volatility, spiking up as well, I'd be pretty confident in saying that it's likely a big area to be aware of. And if it happens to happen alongside one of the areas that I have marked off right over here, whether it's this 2300 to 2600 area that we just looked at, whether it's this 1869 area right over here, or the full kit and caboodle all the way down to 1100 or 1300, those things in confluence with each other is essentially what I'm looking for, to build a case for it. Then we want to see the reaction off it. We basically just want to see something similar to what we saw, over here, an immediate pump up and then basically sideways where things quiet down once again. So it will get boring once again. Actually, it'll actually be pretty damn similar, likely similar to the 6,000 area right over here, where things were just, it was boring. It's just kind of moving in a range, and then the rest is history, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, but like you said, trying to time it is ridiculous. I mean, even though you have indicators and you can look at past performance, you can find similarities. I know a lot of people on the channel, myself included, we kind of do like a dollar cost averaging strategy, but then you have to ask yourself, if we're just going down anyway, is that a bad strategy? Should we just be sort of just sitting it out altogether? You know what I mean? If there's so much indication that we're not at the bottom yet.
Yeah. So that is an interesting thing to bring up, right? And it's a personal perspective thing, right? I can never, I'm not a financial advisor. That's not financial advice. Blah 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 blah. SEC, go fuck yourself. Just kidding. Just kidding. But but hey, understand that everyone has different perspectives. So I can only share my own perspective, and then people can take that as it will. Do I think that Bitcoin goes lower? Lower, absolutely. But here's also the other thing. You mentioned something incredibly powerful, and essentially, this is what I think a lot of people get wrong. Everyone's obsessed with buying capitulation. Remember, go back to that conversation we just had where capitulation, man, only really one person truly gets to buy it. That's why you get a volume signature like you get right over here. Look at the volume over here. That is insane, man. It's basically what you do over here in your parabolic cycle right over here. So I'm also looking for a volume signature of this guy right over here in our parabolic cycle. You'll notice that this guy right over here, not so much, doesn't really do it in terms of this guy. In fact, you actually even see the same volume signature in relation to this guy, into this guy, as you saw over here on the same area that we just looked at that was corresponding to the MBT on this guy and this guy. So when we're talking about major market movers putting in major lows, it happens so damn fast, man. And you know what? You said that you were in, you started in crypto when Bitcoin was around 2000. So you were definitely around.
Yeah, I bought in my first Bitcoin in May of 2017. I had known about it before that, but you know how it goes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Totally understand that.
I had guys literally telling me to buy. I was at college parties, back in like seriously, like 2011, 2012, and I remember my friend Volo. I haven't actually spoken to him. He's probably off in a yacht somewhere. He was busy, mining it and buying it back in the day, telling me, "Oh, dude, you better get on this." And I'm like, screw this digital currency. I'm gonna go play beer pong or something. I don't care about that. I don't. And yeah, man, it's crazy, but it's definitely come a long way. In a nutshell, what I'm gathering from you essentially is you are very positive in the long term. That's what I'm gathering, or else you probably wouldn't be doing this. Short term could be a little bit turbulent because, I like to talk about fundamentals as well, because there was a YouTube video that came out that people had actually pointed me to, and it was by the Modern Investor, and he was just basically talking about the power of becoming a collective whale. Like, say hypothetically, everybody just dollar cost average, right? And we all held. You know what I'm saying? But does that actually work? Because you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all, especially with OTC markets, everything's just based on price times supply. So even if we keep buying, they can still do what they want, right?
So I perhaps maybe have a sombering thing to say then. When it comes to big market movers, right? These people are playing with hundreds of millions, billions in some cases. So to the average person, it sounds right as that person you alluded to said, where if everyone just dollar cost averages in and never sells again, it'll all be hunky dory. We can all go up from here. It's not necessarily the way that it works. The retailer is a drop of piss in the vast ocean of Venus, man. It's non-existent. It's nothing when you compare it to a major market mover. And I really got a first hands-on, education on this in the traditional markets, being like on an actual floor doing deals with brokers who were, the client, their clients would be, or their customer would be like a major bank, and they'd come in and they would drop money that you can't conceive of, $500 million, $1 billion, whatever it might be, and they want their fills. When we talk about you and I, just putting our, even if you're playing with, $1 million, it's not going to do too much. So does it, does it matter?
Dollar cost average on Friday, I'm not doing my part.
No. Unfortunately not, man. Yeah. So
it's one of those things. Now no one's gonna buy. No one's gonna watch the channel anymore. That's it. Forget it, guys. Just turn it off. I'll see you in a couple. Maybe next week I'll come back.
But here's the thing, man. I want to have a positive message here. I really do, because understand that when you do see something like this going on, the end goal is to accumulate for that big player. So when you actually do see those sorts of volume signatures going down, when you see that sort of volatility spike up, when you see the MET signal start selling things, and you see some of those, if you see like a 10% jump in 5 minutes, probably gonna be a good indication that someone actually has entered in and they want to put their weight into the market, and that should actually be quite positive because they're now going to be on your side. And if they put the anchor in at that level, well, now they have to defend that level. It becomes a game, right? It's a game, and that's why, yes, capitulation or downwards market is very nasty. Yes, capitulation can come different ways. It's again going back to human emotions. It's all about the psychology of it. It's causing the emotion of hopelessness and despair. So, people always say, if everyone knows what capitulation looks like, can it still happen? Of course it can. It can just come a different way. It's about the emotion. So, you could cause hopelessness and despair and people to capitulate by going sideways at 2000 for 5 years. I wouldn't stay in, man. That's too much. It's too long. But but when it comes down to it, going back to that conversation of that big market mover, when they come in and they do something like that, they have a goal in mind. They have a true goal in mind, and this is really it's quite intense stuff. So
And
so
knowing what you know, okay, what do you think is going on right now in the background? Because we can only base off of what these guys say, what the institutions are saying. What do you really think is happening right now? I mean, are these guys looking? Are they getting in? Do they not care? Is it really true, like what Van Eck said? They're all going to gold. What do you really think is actually happening in the background?
So there is a great video on YouTube called it's if you type it in, it'll be Jim Cramer, Do Nothing Remotely Honest. Now, Jim Cramer, if you're not familiar with him, he has a show on CNN, I believe it's called Fast Money.
Yeah, he's like,
He
like always crazy and
Right,
yeah.
right. So he used to be a hedge fund manager, and he before the era of like everyone having phones and YouTube being a real thing, he basically got caught saying a bunch of a bunch of shit basically. And if you go type in that video, you'll see it in firsthand. But just to kind of summarize it, he basically says, "Hey,
I'm actually going to drop that
yeah,
video right above, right now. We're going to drop it
oh yeah,
so
man,
people
hell
can
yeah."
click it if they want to. Yeah, we'll do it when
It's
it's out.
awesome,
So,
man. It's so classic.
yeah.
Anyways, he basically lays it out, man, straight from the horse's mouth. He straight up says, yeah, we do things to essentially tell the public our opposite position so that we can, basically, either sell to them or buy from them.
CNBC.
Yeah, and there you go, man. Is it any mistake that CNBC on Twitter can't get a trade right?
I mean, I guess
Or
technically we are talking about CNBC, but I was talking about. Did you see that chart that I Love Crypto had put out, where he literally
oh no,
I don't even know where to find it. You got to look it up on Twitter.
oh
Jacob
yeah,
Canfield. He pointed out, he took every single time over the course of, I think it was 2018, that CNBC said to buy or sell or FUD or this, and every time it was like Bitcoin is like dead or get out, it would go up like literally the next day or like that day. And every time
yeah.
they would say like now's a great time to buy, or like when they were telling people to buy XRP when it was like over $2.50 or something
Oh,
like that.
that'll never be lived down in the history
Yeah,
of
so I mean,
cryptocurrency,
it's
man.
just like at this point,
So legendary. So yeah, man. When it comes down to something like that, I think it'll be quite enlightening if anyone watches this. He literally says that he confirms that, and this is coming from a guy who is a former hedge fund manager, and I can say that is, it's pretty damn accurate. If you hear about someone talking, about we're not like, or we're gonna buy here, they're not buying there. They're not fucking buy. You can't buy there if you're gonna buy. If your true intent is to buy, $500 million worth of Bitcoin, right around that $1 billion of Bitcoin, you won't be able to get in your fucking buys at that
right?
price.
It's like if I was at like a horse track, I'm not gonna like tell you the one that I know that's gonna win, because then I'm not gonna make as much money off of you betting against
Right.
it. So I'm gonna try to play it up like some
Exactly.
other horse is gonna win, but then put my money on the one that I really know is gonna.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And there's nothing really motivating for any of these people to put out, quite honestly, the truth, so it's one of those things. Be careful, be careful. For myself, with my sort of a channel, I always show my positions. That's my way of verifying myself and showing, hey, this is what I actually believe right now. And cryptocurrency is a very special place because there's no real regulation, there's no real oversight or anything like that, where someone's going to get on your case, if you're quite literally lying or deceiving, which again does happen in traditional markets, but there's technically stuff around that. Crypto is a little bit more dubious with it. So, I do want to say something that, hey, if if your favorite person who is advocating trades and stuff like that, be careful, man. You have to verify yourself. That's the only way to do it in cryptocurrency with no sort of regulatory agency. In traditional markets, I'm verified by FINRA and the SEC as having a Series 56. we don't have that here. We don't have that. It's a completely different space, man. It's a wild west for
Yeah,
all
and
intents
I
and
tell
purposes.
that to everybody. I mean, listen, even on my channel, because
Mhm.
obviously there were a lot of projects we had looked at last year, and a lot of them lost money. I mean, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin lost over 82%. So I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
surprised that these altcoins lost
Either.
99%. So you get a lot of people that are
100%.
pissed, like, oh, you were talking about this project. It's like, listen,
Yeah.
man, I can't control this, and Bitcoin pulled everything down. And I think that's why this year, even though some people say, the news, I do try to go out of my way to sort of separate what news is worth looking at and what isn't, because it's like
Yeah.
you said, it's all fabricated. It's all designed to make you take positions and do the opposite of what they want you to, or what they want. So
Well, that's one of the things that I really liked about your channel, man, when I tuned in is that you seem to have a very honest and unbiased way of saying what you believe. Now, whether that comes true or not, that's I mean, I say stuff too that doesn't, that quite literally doesn't happen. But as
yeah.
long as you're honest about it, that's all you can do, right? That's all you can do. Um, and so yeah, alongside, I love there was a video that you put up yesterday at the beginning of your video where it said something like, when you have an amazing first trade and then your second trade does
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, with the ski
Flips
guy.
his fucking yeah.
Because it's true, man.
Oh
Like
my
sometimes, like I swear to God, like I remember when I like got my first pump and I was like, I'm a genius, and then you try it
right,
again on the next coin because everything looks the same, and then it doesn't work, and you're like, what did I do?
right.
So it's
And then it
like,
messes with that perception of yourself, right? So you want to hold on to it until it's a winner, and then you
yeah,
don't do what's necessary in order to trade. And that's the really big mind game of trading, man. Is you have to be able to accept a loss, right? When you
mhm.
understand that you're going to be wrong, just get out, and that's what makes things sustainable.
It's difficult though because with tribalism, man, in crypto, there's so much about like
Oh, man.
my
The
project can
gang.
do no wrong, and no
Yeah.
matter what and I used to be that way. I used to be very, very tribalistic with certain.
Oh, I feel like everyone goes through the phases, right?
Mhm.
You go through the phase of like starting out with Bitcoin, then you're like, whoa, there's other
There's
Bitcoins.
like 2,000 other cryptos that
Yeah,
on CoinMarketCap.
and they're all amazing.
Every single one of them is going to change the world. And yeah, I mean, we've all
Yeah.
been there. I mean, this year, I could definitely tell you, I've learned to not be as in bed with these coins. Personally, for me,
Right.
I Bitcoin is my biggest holding. It wasn't last year. It is this year. My absolute biggest holding. And yeah, I mean, I have a couple speculative ones that kind of just, and I don't talk about them on the channel. I don't, because if I do, then I'm essentially pumping shit coins, right? So I take positions.
Oh,
I don't talk
close.
about them, and I just, they're just things I look at. But yeah, for the most part, man, it's definitely been crazy. But dude, I want to say I really appreciate you on the channel. I mean, we're almost at like an hour right now. Is
Wow.
there? Yeah, I know, right? Is there something? I mean, we could do this again. We don't have to make this a one-time deal. I think this is the
Yeah,
most
absolutely,
TA.
man.
This is the most TA I think accumulatively that's been on my channel in like the whole time my channel's
That's
existed,
awesome.
and it's all in this one video. So I do want to say, if
Pretty
there is
funny.
anybody watching right now, and you guys are out there and you're really into TA, and this is something that you're interested in and you want to learn more, you may want to check out this channel, because this is what Krown does, like literally all day. So this is, and I don't do this on my channel. So if you're interested, I just want to let you guys know I do have your channel will be linked below as well. So
Man, yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah, I always forget to talk about my own channel.
that's okay. So I mean, is there anything you like think because like maybe people on my channel don't like know who you are, but like just like something you want to leave them with? Is there anything you think is sort of before you go?
Yeah, man. Again, I want to have a positive message. I do believe in Bitcoin long term, and there's probably gonna be some a handful of really successful ones as well. I hope that came through on the charts, even though we did talk about a lot of perhaps doom scenarios. But overall, this is an incredible experience for anyone in this market, and I really do truly believe that in traditional markets, you need to live about 10, I mean at least 10, but like really 20 to 30 years to see a full-on market cycle. In cryptocurrency, it gives it to you in like 5 years, right?
Mhm.
Which is an incredible experience, and this is something that you'll be able to take with you into the next one, and you'll have that emotional conditioning going forwards, which will just only make you a better a better trader, better person, better investor, whatever it might be, whatever your goal is. It'll be a great experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, dude. And by the way, you are always welcome back on the channel. I've never done this before with like just straight up, we're just going to talk TA for like almost an hour. I think it was really cool. Awesome
Fun.
experience. I hope you guys enjoyed it today. This is very, very different from my channel. If you guys like stuff like this, then, maybe we'll have to do these more often. So thank you so much, Crown. I really
Absolutely. for having me here. I want to say thank you to all the people, all the viewers in Crypto Zombie Nation. Absolutely amazing. Good to meet you, all you fine people, and hope to see you soon.
Everyone out there, check out Krown, guys. You know I freaking love you guys. Everyone that's been liking, subscribing, commenting, you guys freaking rock. My name's K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto and peace out.
Thanks again, guys.